So this is a conversation with Audrey Chia. If you've not seen her before, she is absolutely blowing up on LinkedIn at the moment, over 30,000 followers. She is an expert in marketing, brand strategy, and copywriting. Currently the co-founder of Close with Copy, which is a LinkedIn bootcamp, and this should be out around the time that this releases too. If you're anyone interested in how you can get into brand strategy, marketing, growing your account on LinkedIn with the power of AI, also public speaking, also very, very niche tactics to take you 1% above the competition, then this is a perfect conversation with you. I really enjoyed it. Her enthusiasm is tangible, and I can't wait to speak to her again in every regard. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. So today we are back for another episode of AI Tool Report Live. I am super excited about this one. We done this on 3-4 hours notice. For our guest today, it's currently 9 p.m. for her, so we're all kind of weird and wonderful. So I want to introduce today's guest, Audrey Chia. She is the founder at Close with Copy. She's also a LinkedIn wizard with over 36,000 followers in an extremely short amount of time. There's so much I want to cover with you today, but welcome to the podcast, first of all.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being so spontaneous. Liam and I were just saying that both of us love hopping right into things, and that's why we are here today.
Yeah, I mean, you can't think too much, you just got to take action sometimes. So in the spirit of kind of keeping things rapid fire and quick, I want to start you off with some quick fire questions that are a bit different from what you'd usually be asked on a podcast, all right?
Sure.
So my first question for you is, what's your optimum focus stack? So when you want to be most focused on work, what are you eating, what are you drinking, do you have your headphones in? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so usually I like to work in a cafe, but before I go to the cafe, I need to walk. So my morning routine is I wake up and then I walk to somewhere to work, right? And that gives me it keeps me awake. And then when I get to the cafe, my body is already primed for work, right? So you're already switched on. And then you have, of course, your iced Americano. Who can live without it? Right? And then you have the nice hum of the cafe music in the background. You open your laptop, you get started, then I just get cracking. And I can go on for 4 to 5 hours straight in this super optimal zone. And then I get exhausted afterwards. But it's because it's really short, intense bursts of work, which I enjoy. And then I take a short break and then I can continue from there.
Yeah, I mean, one of my next question was going to be, what's your optimum amount of working hours in a day? And you were like, you've already answered that, 4 to 5. Do you like doing some creative stuff in the afternoon as well?
Yeah, so I try to, have breaks in between, right? Really intense blocks of work. So in the morning, I'm most optimal. And then I take my lunch break. And then in the afternoon, I have another power slot. And then I try to clock in a workout. And then, of course, we sometimes still have night calls, even though I'm trying to, not have as many, except for today. Today is an exception for you. Hi! But yeah, I do enjoy working a lot. I'm a bit of a workaholic, but right now I'm also trying to manage my lifestyle and having that kind of work-life balance that I think is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and that's something I'd love to kind of go on to as well. You being an entrepreneur, being active on LinkedIn all the time, what that looks like. With you spending so much time on LinkedIn, what's your most favorite thing and your least favorite thing about the platform?
So what I love about the platform, again, it may sound cliche, but it's the community. I can tell you that it's really hard to find other entrepreneurs and founders who are, in my own circle of friends. So it's really, really nice when I'm meeting someone for example, yourself, who's just doing something that you love. And everyone here is so passionate. They will not be here, they will not be posting content if they didn't have the heart to put in the work and to grow and to give, right? So that's what I admire. And I think that really drives me to work a lot harder, and also see how far I can take myself, my journey, of course, and my growth. But of course, it comes at a cost, because while most people are hanging out and having time with their friends, you do have to check in sometimes with your content, with your performance, with engagement. So because it's a 24/7 kind of platform, you do need to make time for it. I'm trying to schedule my time a lot more now than before. In the past, I used to be online, almost every other hour, right? But right now, I have also blocks of time that I really portion out for LinkedIn.
So you've managed to find that balance, or you're kind of tuning in that balance over time, right? You're finding what's perfect for you.
Yes, and I think for anyone who is on the platform, it's okay to take a break. I didn't used to dare to take a break because I thought that, if my content is not there, nobody's going to care. And I was like, But what I have done now is, if I'm on holiday, I try to schedule my content beforehand. It's okay if I don't engage as much. And on weekends, I can have a day off. For example, on Sundays, I can choose not to post and I can be okay with it. In the past, I used to think that I had to commit to the platform, but right now it's really about, being able to commit for the long term, because it's a marathon and not so much of a sprint.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way of putting it. We have all these sorts of AI tools. We have LinkedIn bootcamps that I'm sure we'll talk about today as well. There's so many ways of managing this time, and I'd love to dive into that. But before we do, what I would really love to start with in terms of your story is if you could tell me a little about where you grew up and what the attitude to your environment was towards entrepreneurship.
So I'm from the sunny island of Singapore. If you haven't already been, you should. I was telling Liam that you're going to gain a couple of pounds after visiting the country, but I promise you it's worth it. It's just work out afterwards, okay? You're just going to eat everything here. So yeah, I'm from Singapore. Singapore is actually a slightly more conservative society. Although we are also very progressive, a lot of people are in more stable corporate jobs. So for people who are choosing to walk the path less traveled and do their own things, it's actually a bit more of a risk compared to most of our peers, or even my peers, right? So when I decided to do my own thing, it wasn't an easy decision. It was something I struggled with, and of course I was afraid of that, that failure, right? But then again, I always think to myself, you either fall or you fly. So that was why I decided to take that leap of faith, right? Because I would never have known how far I can grow if I didn't take that leap, and just really went all in. So that is something that, is a kind of mental, emotional challenge. And it's also why LinkedIn is a brilliant place, because you see so many other people who have taken that leap and who have succeeded, and you see that it is possible, it is a journey, and everyone is still learning and growing. And this is also something I wanted to share, right? Because I always thought that, once you reach a certain milestone in life, you have a 4-hour work week, you've already made it. Or for example, once you hit a 6-figure, agency business, and that's that's what life is about. But when I asked the founders of these companies whom I met on LinkedIn, I said, are you happy now? What's next? And all of them said, I don't know, I'm still writing, my own book, and it's still a journey, which is what I think is beautiful about it.
I'd love to hear you talk about that kind of a spark, that moment where you decided to go off as an entrepreneur. From your LinkedIn history, I can see that you were a copywriter for a while, you headed up growth for a team as well. Tell me about that light bulb moment. What was the final straw that made you switch to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So funny story, and also one that is deeply personal and emotional. I started off as a copywriter, right? And I was someone who was really passionate, because when I was 13, I saw an ad on TV and I said to myself, Audrey, you are going to become the best creative director there is out there. It sounds so cliche for me to say this right now, right? But I genuinely believed in that 13 years old white-eyed girl. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I worked my butt off, and I got into one of a really great agency with really great people there, and that's when I also learned my chops. However, during the time I was there was also a couple of folks in the management who had certain ideals, and were not as supportive, right? So when I finally asked for, them to relook at my pay at that point in time, my then manager asked me, "But Audrey, why are you asking me to look at your pay? Why can't your partner earn more?" And I was immediately like crushed, right? So I was a young creative, I was working my butt off, and my value seemed to be defined by someone else that's not me, and I couldn't make sense of it. And that was when I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna take things into my own, like matters into my own hands, right? Started looking for, $5 gigs on Upwork, looking at how do I like post an ad about myself, how do I find clients. I just started from ground zero, building my portfolio at the site while still having a day job. So it wasn't an easy journey, but I'm glad that moment happened because it gave me the strength and the courage, the determination to say, I will find my own way. And that's where I am today.
Sometimes the fuel or the best fuel to put you forward is that negative fuel of someone not appreciating you, someone not understanding your values, someone putting you back a bit, and it's kind of like a catapult. It pulls you back so you can explode forwards. With that, what were the initial first months of you? You said you talk about these Upwork gigs, the $5 gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Were you immediately focused on AI, or was it more from like a creative director portfolio that you were initially looking at?
Yeah, so that was years ago, right? People always see, the success you've achieved, but they don't see how much work that you put in, right? And I love the quote, it's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light. So when I first started, I was doing a day job plus 5 other gigs. Really tough times, barely enough sleep, no social life, but I really wanted to put in the work to build my portfolio. And at that point in time, I was just a regular copywriter, learning the ropes and trying to figure out how do I help startups and smaller companies scale while leveraging the knowledge that I had from big campaigns for global brands, right? So it was me like picking up new skills, testing different things. And then last year, I finally found the courage to quit my day job and go all into launching my own consultancy. And the funny thing is, the moment I said I'm going to do this, ChatGPT came along. And I was like, why? It's like, what perfect timing is this? And one of my clients actually dropped me a message. And then he said, Audrey, you are going to be replaced. And then he added the link to ChatGPT, and that was the news article of ChatGPT being launched. So again, so many mixed emotions, like, oh, what am I going to do with this, right? But of course, then I had 2 options, right? Either I fight the current, or I choose to learn how to leverage AI and ride the tide. So of course, I chose to pivot and figure out how do I actually use this new tool. And that's why I think I'm a little bit more ahead than most other people, because I had no choice. I really had no choice, and I had to just figure it out along the way. So yeah, that is the second part of my journey.
With that, so it's so interesting again that you say like someone gives you a negative comment in your life where they're like, no Audrey, you can't do this, you're going to be replaced. And you're essentially 2 middle fingers up, watch me.
I'm a very stubborn woman. I don't like being told that I can't do it.
I love it. I think once every 3 months I'm just going to send you a LinkedIn message, be like, Audrey, you're not doing enough. And you're like, okay, watch this, I'm going to go to 100,000 followers. Yeah.
That's my trigger and my fuel. Don't tell anyone.
No, it's our secret. So with that, you come to this point, you're launching your own consultancy, you're quitting your day job, ChatGPT comes along. How do you then integrate AI with your business at that point? Like, what sort of learning are you doing, and then what does your first AI offering look like?
Yeah, so at that point in time again, I didn't know what to do with it, so I had to figure it out. And there wasn't a playbook around. There was no playbook on how to leverage AI as a copywriter, right? People talked about prompting, people talk about, oh, these are like 100 new tools, but nobody was showing me how I could leverage AI in my own workflows. So a lot of the things that I have done and talked about are things that I have personally experimented and tested. It's not, so you can take a look, for example, at one landing page prompt that I created, right? People see that, oh, it's a really smart and snappy prompt. They don't see the 100 other prompts I've tested and failed. So basically it's me thinking, how do I think as a copywriter? How can I prompt AI in the way that I think? How can I mix and match different workflows to get me an optimal result? And you have to keep iterating and pivoting, right? Because one style of prompting doesn't work for everything. So it's a matter of, you have a tool, you have a mission, how do you bring them both together? And then how do you combine these two things to have different permutations and combinations until you find something that works for you? So I would say that my own process of growth was really based on putting in the hours to test, optimize, iterate. And because I have a really strong growth mentality, I enjoy the process, and I like cracking the code and be like, oh yeah, this works. And it's beautiful when I solve something at 3 a.m. at night. I'm like, okay, I love this prompt, it works. I can't sleep until I solve this thing. So yeah, that was my process.
Interesting. I mean, you've mentioned a few different things about your kind of personality, like you're very curious. You mentioned like that stubbornness there of proving someone wrong, and you mentioned that problem solving there. Like, what would you say is the biggest thing about your personality that sets you apart from the competition?
I have a really strong growth mentality, and I am really consistent. That is the one thing that I'm very thankful for, because without that, number one, mentality of wanting to try and learn and improve and grow, I wouldn't be where I am today, because a lot of the skill sets that I have now, I didn't have 5 years ago. And if I stuck in a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't have acquired these skill sets. So I think that to me is a really strong core value. And the second thing is consistency and dedication. When I have a goal, I like chase it. So I'm like a dog, right? And then you throw the bone, and then I'm just like, I have to get that bone. So when I first started on LinkedIn, nobody gave a poop, you know. Like I spent 3 weeks doing something, and then I only have 10 likes, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is not working out for me. But if I had given up at any stage of that journey, or if I had given up doing that $5 gig and thinking, I'm never gonna get rich off this, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today, right? So I think it's the combination of having the growth mindset and then having that, you know, ability to follow through and just keep putting in the reps, that has led me to see, you know, a lot greater results. And of course the journey still continues.
Yeah, I mean, I really like, it's watching you blow up over LinkedIn. It's like every time I open the app or the browser, you're always there and you're talking to someone else I know. And then I've had maybe 5 conversations in the past week with different people who personally recommend you as an amazing person. So it's just like everyone in my network is like, yeah, speak to Audrey, there's Audrey over there. And I keep seeing you in my feed, and I want to talk about this LinkedIn growth, because doing my research on you, I see different titles: 0 to 20k followers in 8 months, 0 to 30k followers in 12 months, or whatever it is. It's all kind of like how rapidly you've grown that. So tell me about when you kind of started to see traction. You mentioned that kind of first couple of weeks, the first couple of months, where you'd spend 3 weeks doing a prompt, posting it, you get 10 likes. It could be hard to do it. Like, when did you start kind of noticing a change in the tide?
Yes, so it again was a process of growth, right? Initially, I didn't understand the platform. So how I see LinkedIn is how I see advertising or, you know, copywriting. I see LinkedIn as a media channel, and I'm the product. Whenever I'm learning how to optimize for a new platform, I need to understand how that platform works, and how does a product stand out. So if I am a product on LinkedIn, how do I optimize my profile? So initially, I didn't know like how to write for this platform, right? Because everyone was writing in such a weird way, like short sentences, bullet points. Like, who does that in the copywriting world? So when I was on LinkedIn, I was like, this is such a strange world. And then I saw carousels, and I'm like, what are carousels? Like, what kind of format is this? Like, they're not textbooks, they're like documents. Like, who even bothers, right? So that was another question mark for me. And then I saw people posting photos and talking about their failures, and then I'm just like, I don't want to toot my own horn and talk about all these sob stories. Like, why would I want to do that? So yes, it was very challenging. So the first few posts that I created were just me experimenting and testing out formats that seemed to have worked for other people. I was like, let me try this, let me try that. But it wasn't really gaining traction. And then I realized I had to figure out a way to get viral, to get eyeballs on my content. Because if I'm a new product in the marketplace, I need to find a way to get to my first, 10K, revenue, right? How do I do that? So I decided to focus on the one question that most people had at that point in time, which is the best copywriting AI tool? So there were so many AI tools in the market, but nobody knew, even myself, which was the best tool, right? So that's what I did. I did a whole 8-part series where I spent hours testing the different tools for different use cases, and me as a copywriter coming in with that point of view of whether I think the copy works or not, right? So by answering a question that was top of everyone's mind, it then positioned me as an expert in the AI copywriting space. And then that gave me the profile boost, right? To then get started on my next batch of content. So again, it's all content strategy, figuring out how to get leverage with questions that people already have, and then building on top of that momentum.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really interesting. I've not heard that from any of the conversations so far. You obviously have a history, you have experience with these massive organizations and growth and marketing, product across all these kind of different industries. So that viewpoint of seeing yourself as a product within the marketplace of LinkedIn is super interesting. Touching on that, obviously, like a big part of product is branding. And something I've noticed with you is that you're wearing it right now. You wear it across all of your socials, all of your interviews, all of your website. It's always orange. It's always a very specific shade of orange. Tell me about that.
Yes, so in copywriting, right, or in advertising, you always think about what is your creative strategy, or what is your brand look and feel, what is your brand voice. So it's a similar concept. If you are in a supermarket and you recognize this distinct brand that is bright yellow, and you're like, that's the best dishwasher ever, it's bright yellow, it has to work. So in the same way, right, you want to maintain like brand consistency on LinkedIn, because when you are on LinkedIn, you are building a personal brand, right? That is not too far off from building a company's brand. It's just that in this case, you are the brand. So I chose the color red because it's passionate, there's a lot of energy, it was distinct in the marketplace, and at that time there were a lot of people doing like darker colors. So when you see a pop of red, it's like, oh wow, that's really interesting, right? So I wanted to zig while everyone zagged, right? Which was why I chose red. And what it also does is whenever someone scrolls a profile and they see the color red, they just think of me. And I wanted to have that kind of mental association or trigger, which is why I think not everyone has to apply this concept, but for me, building a brand entails building a brand and keeping it consistent across different platforms and occasion, and that helps to really solidify that brand image.
Yeah, I mean, it's super, super smart. Like, it's one of those things that kind of underlines everything. Like, you see Alex Hormozy, he's always in a tank top. You see Chris Williamson, he's always in a plain top. You see Tim Ferriss, he's always bald. Like, everyone has a thing that they do. Question for you, so you always wear like the orange dress and stuff to public speaking events. Have those come about since you started doing what you're doing? Because like doing my research on you, I can see that you've done a lot of public speaking. Are they all recent events? Was that before that? Tell me about them.
So, fun fact, before LinkedIn, I was nobody. I don't think I'm somebody right now, but I'm somebody with the opportunity to speak. So that is the power of personal branding. So before like LinkedIn, when I was, remember, still either freelancing, doing side gigs, no one invited me for anything, right? I was just a regular Audrey, right? It's only when I started posting, being active, being recognized as a voice, then people started asking like, hey, do you want to show up for our podcast? Hey, do you want to turn up for our event as a panelist? And I'm like, me? Panelist? Shocked. Okay. and then that was why I was so surprised, right? People were reaching out to me. And at that point in time, I actually got invited by Microsoft Asia to be a panelist in their AI discussion. Who would have thought, I would never have dreamt of that, right? So when those opportunities came, it's amazing because basically it's like a domino effect, right? Once you have one, then more and more will come because they then see you as a trusted voice, which is the power of personal branding, because people like to view others in a certain lens. When you have certain credentials, when you have certain numbers following, immediately there is that sense of trust. It doesn't mean that your work is necessarily good, great, or not good. You don't know that, but you already have that initial sense of trust to have that conversation. And then that makes it a lot easier to also have that sell.
On those first events that you did, were you nervous? Were you scared? Has that changed over time? Do you feel more comfortable and happy and confident in that environment?
I think I was pooping in my pants for the first event. But I was like, Audrey, you got this. You're so confident. And then you gotta tell yourself, right? I can do this. I can do this. Yeah. So, but I think it really gave me a lot of practice and exposure. So you can even tell, even in my videos and my podcast, I used to be stuttering or not sure what to say. Now I'm a lot more myself, a lot more personal, because it takes time to build that confidence. But once you get into it, right, then it just comes as second nature. Yeah. So I'm very lucky to have been able to speak at not just panel discussions, but on global summits with 10,000 people, or even speaking in person to a huge crowd on stage. And all these have been unlocked because of LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. It's like a Genesis story just from posting on LinkedIn. You talk about that. You're basically bringing your own expertise and your own curiosity, being okay, I'm really curious about specifically copywriting AI. Let's explore this as an 8-part series, and then it's led to all these opportunities. And this is what I always say to people as well. Where I am today is because I used to run an old podcast where I explored random conversations. And I remember the first episode I ever done was me on my floor in Melbourne speaking into a mic by myself. And it's
Wow.
it doesn't really matter what you start, as long as you start something, it'll lead to more and more and more opportunities.
Yeah. And they say that saying, right, luck favors the prepared, right? So if you open more doors and you have more conversations and you just start doing things, you will see more opportunities. They won't come instantly, but there is a huge chance of you unlocking even greater things if you get started today.
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to think of it is every single thing that you do in a positive direction increases your surface area of luck. So everyone has a designated, and for every event you do, it increases a little bit, and you meet a new connection, they introduce you to someone else, and you do another event, and that surface area of luck just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I mean, you're someone obviously with the hugest surface area of luck, because you're not just speaking at events, but you're also on the other side of that where you're interviewing other people too. Do you have a preference between being interviewed or interviewing someone else? What is the advantages and disadvantages to both for you?
I think they are both important, but it depends on your objective. So for me, when I interview other folks, I talk about actionable AI frameworks. So my podcast is called the AI Marketer's Playbook. But there's a specific objective, right? Because I want to continue to grow in the AI marketing space. And I'm not talking about AI for finance or AI for, everything else, right? I'm talking about AI in marketing because that's my niche, right? So when I'm building that podcast, it's with the intention of, in the long term, I still want to be that market leader in this space. On the other hand, I love also attending podcasts with other folks because then it allows me to share my expertise and brands me as an authority. So again, they function in different ways. You just need to know what is the goal of creating something. And this is not even just for podcasts, right? It's for any piece of content you create. What is the objective? If you are crystal clear, then it will be able to take form.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. On a personal note, do you have a preference between talking about yourself or asking other people questions?
I like listening. I can listen all day. I'm like, tell me your secret to success. I think I asked somebody that once, what is your secret to success? I really wanted to know.
And what about you? Do you have a secret for success that we can know for the audience?
You tell me your secret to success first, then I'll tell you mine.
I don't know. We'll need to do a different podcast for this. I don't know about that. We're going to keep that under lock and key.
Oh, that's a real secret, right? Yeah, I think for me, my secret to success is, even though it's, again, something you probably heard a million times, it's not giving in, not giving up. There were so many times I really just felt like, I don't think I can do this anymore. But to be able to wake up the next day and just go for it, wow, it's like one of the hardest things to do, but then you see that it pays off. And then you see that it is possible, and to be able to prove to myself that the work I put in can pay off, can create impact, can maybe help the world to be slightly better in some ways, it makes me feel very satisfied. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, like I would say my secret to success is probably a very similar thing, just reiterated in different words. Like, I would say it's two-pronged for me. One, start anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. Start a podcast, start writing online, write on Medium, take pictures on Instagram. And two, just trust the process. Like, don't give yourself these ideas of grandeur where you're like, oh, I need to make $1 million in a year. Don't do that. Just be like, I want to post every single day for a year, and then see what opportunities come out of that. So it's not being too fixated on that end goal, just kind of trusting the process. And it's actually something I noticed. I was listening to your first interview that I can see on your YouTube channel, and I'm going to murder this pronunciation, so you need to help me out here. Goyami Mubeshi, you're going to have to help me with this. But he talks about going from 0 to 20 mil in ARR.
Yes, there was, I call him G. It's easier to pronounce. Everyone calls him G. He's the founder of Lemlist and Empire, right?
Can you tell me a little bit, if you were kind of to summarize, I mean, there's a lot of keys to success that you get out of that interview. What did you kind of learn from that episode? Can you tell the audience a little bit about what was covered and what you kind of get out of that?
Yeah, so I interviewed G, who's someone that I deeply admire and respect. I took about 8 to 9 months to secure this interview. It wasn't easy, but I managed to. As I say, I want something where I go for it. So he was really, really kind to spend some time with me, where I really asked him insights on scaling his company, growing his company, right? And I think one key thing that stood out to me was, and this also influenced my own business, right? He talked about vitamin versus a painkiller. And because I asked him, like, how does it, what are you going to do about a vitamin versus a painkiller product, right? So again, you either you turn a vitamin into a painkiller so that people want the product, or you start off with just a painkiller. And how do you do that? It's actually by addressing pain points that you feel. So G started off because he was running outbound and he had certain challenges he wanted to solve, right? So when you innately have those challenges and you want to solve it, then when you create a product, it leans into it. In the same vein, when I first started my AI journey, I was creating a vitamin. I was providing AI tooling services. And I spent 1 year trying to pitch to clients my AI copywriting bespoke tooling service, which I then realized that it was a vitamin because people didn't see the need to immediately implement AI into their workflows. Whereas I developed a painkiller afterwards, in which it's now called the LinkedIn Launchpad, right? So this painkiller was developed for someone like myself who really wanted to figure out a faster way to scale or grow when I first got started. And this is taking off a lot better than the AI tooling process, because now it's something that really addresses a key pain point. And that's also how I saw it in my own journey. But of course, it took a lot of like testing, experimenting, and then figuring out what works in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, and we've spoke a little bit about the LinkedIn Launchpad. I'm hoping to get some access this week as well, so I can work my way through it. But let's touch more on that. Tell me about how you developed it, who you developed in partnership with, like what can people expect by going through your LinkedIn Launchpad?
Yeah, definitely. So for the LinkedIn Launchpad, right, again, as the name suggests, it's for people who are trying to launch on LinkedIn. I developed something I wish I had to save me all the time I wasted trying to figure out this platform. So you can hear the frustration in my voice because it was such a pain point. I wish someone did it for me, which is why I created it, right? So the LinkedIn Launchpad is a 3-in-1 system that includes 3 parts to helping anyone launch their personal brand with confidence and with speed, right? So we have designs. You get a full profile revamp where I work with a top 1% designer, Audrey, who has created, amazing designs for top creators. His team will give you a new profile banner, a new profile picture, and a new kind of Canva template that you can then use to create content. So like for me, my color is red, right? So he will work with you to find your color, your fonts, your look and feel. So that already means that you get your profile sorted out. The second thing you need to do is you need to understand content strategy, which is also what I have been talking about, right? So in these like really power-packed masterclass series, I include everything I've learned in really actionable bite-sized pieces so that whatever you learn, you can just plug and play. And I don't believe in long-form trainings. Of course, there's value in that, but when you're getting launched, you want to see results. So I believe in just delivering the most impactful things that have driven my growth from not just my content, but from carefully studying the content of top creators. So you know that what is in there is like golden insights, and that's something I really wanted to cover. And of course, the third thing is, how do you execute, right? If you're not a copywriter, if you are not someone who's comfortable writing, how do you write in this strange LinkedIn way, right? So Jake and I have built an AI tool to help folks to quickly turn their thoughts into super well optimized, super well formatted LinkedIn posts, so they don't have to spend hours crafting a post. So yes, this 3-in-1 system is the LinkedIn Launchpad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be working my way through it, but how long has the LinkedIn Launchpad been running for?
About a couple, we had an early alpha launch to get feedback, to test it out. So we are slowly going to transit now into like a proper launch. The first phase was important because I needed to get customer feedback, get their thoughts, testimonials, and also make sure that there are no kinks in the program or system. And now I think in 2 weeks' time, we will be doing the proper launch for the Launchpad.
Wow, that'll be perfect timing. We'll be releasing this podcast in around a month and a half, so it'll be properly up and running for then.
Yes, check it out.
Exactly, we'll put it down in the link down below. We'll create some shorts about this. We'll have it everywhere. With that, you said you kind of put people through it, that they were kind of giving you some market feedback, they were helping you learn, helping you kind of change it about. Like, is there anything in there that surprised you, that people reacted well to, or they didn't react well to, and you had to change? What did that iteration process look like?
Yeah, so again, right, I came in with the perception of certain market value of, what people prioritize. I thought that most people would prioritize the design part of things, and that's because I'm a creative at heart, so that's really important to me. But in fact, that is not the key priority for someone who is opting for the Launchpad. They actually want to leverage AI for success. Also because I am branded as the AI copywriter, which also means my audience are more AI inclined, right? So again, who you're speaking to, what they're looking for, and then how do you optimize for them. So over the past couple of weeks, we actually spoke with a lot of our users who were testing the AI tool, and we have refined the prompts about 4 to 5 times based on their feedback to be able to get them to where they want to be. So we started from a very basic skeleton version, then built the prompts, built the system, tested different things, got feedback, and now we're in a place where Jake and I are actually using our tool every single day. So we are both, active users. We know how it works, and that also puts us in a much better place to push the product because we ourselves are power users.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than pushing something that you're actually a user of yourself. With that, in terms of like the product that you and Jake have created, what does that look like? Have you created a model on top of an existing LLM? Like, talk to me about the kind of technical details of the product that you've made.
Yeah, so we have built an AI tool on top of LLMs. So we have tested ChatGPT and Claude. Again, there is a bit of a difference, but we've gotten to a point where the prompt is pretty good, so the output is pretty good. What probably people would struggle with initially is when they are trying to write a post, they don't know what a post looks like. That's why we have trained our system on top performing frameworks. That helps guide the writer and the AI to creating that perfect post. In copywriting as well, a lot of people think you can ask ChatGPT to help you to write a landing page. However, the better way to prompt for it is to give it a certain framework or guidelines in order to get you much better results.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot people can learn from, and there's always a need for it as well. As like people are always looking to grow on LinkedIn. You've got this AI that you've trained yourself. You're a power user of it. It all kind of aligns, and I'm curious. So with you and Jake, how did you guys first meet? How did you decide to launch this business together?
Yeah, so again, thank you, LinkedIn. So before this, right, Jake was just a random other creator on LinkedIn. We connected just as you and I connected today. Just had a couple of chats, and then I had a project that time for a client who wanted to build a system like that. So I asked Jake like, hey, do you want to work with me on this? I'm great at copywriting and prompting, but I think you are better at trying to build it into a tool, right? So then he said okay, and that 1 week project became 4 months, and that 4 months project from a tool became a tool plus masterclass plus design, and then to an automation flow, an email sequence, and then to building out delivery process, operations, and everything else. So it took time to build this. To whoever who says that it's very easy to create a productized service, it is not, but it is worth it. That's my experience at least.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that's an amazing story. And like, what is the plan for the future then? Are you and Jake going to continue to work together? So focus on a Launchpad? Is your LinkedIn content going to change around? Still going to kind of focus entirely on that intersection of copywriting and AI?
Yeah, so my positioning will not change. I'm very happy in the AI copywriting space. I think there is still lots of room in this, space to grow. So for myself, because my consultancy is close with copy, right? I still love what I do best, like consulting, copywriting, landing pages, ads. Give it to me. I love them, and I have a lot of fun working with clients that I enjoy. So the reason why I wanted to create the LinkedIn Launchpad was because I wanted to build a scalable business that doesn't always require me, right? So I wanted to see if I could do a productized service to scale it and take it to greater heights. And that's also why working with someone like Jake is really cool, because he's also the founder of his own agency called Centauria Labs. He has his own clients, but when the both of us come together to build something together, then it's like putting two brains together and then seeing how we can scale a productized service that nobody has really offered before, so you don't know if it'll work in the market. But again, you never know until you try. So that's where we are at.
Yeah, I'm absolutely positive it will, because I mean, it's something people pose to me and other people all the time. People are always looking to grow on LinkedIn, and it seems like the most confusing thing in the world. It's not as simple as Instagram or TikTok where you can find that market fit really easily. LinkedIn's got really kind of set subject groups that people are interested in, and people are always confused how to grow. So this definitely serves a purpose in the market, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. Something that came to mind upon doing research on you, like obviously LinkedIn's your kind of main profile, and I've seen that you had a Twitter account with a few posts. Why is it you decided to focus so wholeheartedly on LinkedIn, and like why did you decide to not use other social platforms too?
Yeah, so prior to LinkedIn, I didn't really have a social presence. Like, I don't post on Instagram, I don't post on Facebook, I'm really on TikTok. I don't like social stuff. Even though I seem very sociable and personable right now, I had social anxiety online. So it was the opposite of what I wanted to do, right? But when I first started, I did try posting on TikTok for 1 month. I said to myself, TikTok seems to be where everyone goes viral, right? About AI. So let's start on that platform. So I did post content. Some of my posts did really, really well. I did go viral for some posts. But the problem was it wasn't attracting my right target audience. So I'm looking for founders, CMOs, CEOs to work with. They are most likely not going to be on TikTok. So that's why I had to pivot to LinkedIn, because that's finding your product audience fit, right? Or your channel audience fit. LinkedIn, audience, perfect fit. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's a really it's something that people forget, that when you're running a business, right, it's not just about quantity. What matters most is the quality of the people you're actually engaging with. And it can seem quite daunting, because someone can have 100,000 followers on Instagram, but they don't monetize at all, or they don't monetize well. Whereas I know people with 600 followers on LinkedIn and they're making millions of dollars a year because they know how to monetize properly. So it's maybe just a reminder to the audience to keep in mind that like these numbers that you see on social media don't always translate to what you would expect that to translate to as
Definitely.
well.
Yeah, and maybe one thing I can add here is you need to find what is the business model that works for you. I took some time to figure this out, and of course things could change, right? Initially I thought that in order to succeed I needed to have a big team, run an agency model, like do the churn and burn style of I need to get clients in, I need to have work out. I thought that was the only way, but I realized that didn't align with my own values and the reason why I wake up so excited every day. And I love being a solopreneur. I love being a solopreneur with AI. It's the best thing ever. So for me, finding that why and why I'm doing my own business actually kept me a lot more grounded and centered, and less anxious and less, feeling of like not good enough, chasing something else, because I wanted to build a business that worked for me. So I would highly recommend that you think about that as well on your own journey.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on that as well, like I think people forget that you can actually have fun doing this. Is that people look on these things like, oh, starting a business is just going to be hard work and it's going to be a nightmare and it's going to be a slog. And don't get me wrong, there's days where you're working for 18 hours a day to try get through it and get everything done when it needs done on time. But a lot of it, especially in the space we're in with AI changing so consistently, with so many fun people being in the space, is that you get to have conversations like this. I can't fucking wait. I look forward to having conversations like this, because I'm like, I get to go into work and just speak to someone and learn why they're passionate and why they're interested. Like, it's an amazing, amazing, amazing part of the job. Touching on that as well, like, what is it that keeps you motivated and going? Like, you started from this kind of point of like, fuck you, watch this, I'm going to go and start a business. All right, I don't like your model, I'm going to go and do my own thing. What keeps you motivated today? Like, why do you do what you do?
I love what I do. Like, it's a privilege to say this. It's rare for someone to really love what they do, but I have like a fire in my belly and a passion burning bright in my heart, and that's why I bring so much energy to work, right? When I work with my clients, I really care about them. I want to see results. I love seeing growth. Like what I already mentioned, right? My growth mindset also translates into seeing results for myself, for my clients, in my career, in my own mental, emotional development. Being able to know that I'm growing and expanding in so many ways than one, right? Every single day keeps me very fulfilled and motivated. And because I'm always working on different projects. I'm always growing in many ways. I can never get stagnant, right? And that brings me joy. So I did ask myself, I said, what if someone gave me $10 million and said, you just have to retire and don't do anything? Will you take it? And then I thought to myself, nah. So I think I'm in a very happy place doing what I love, growing at my own pace, chasing what I want, and remembering to not, get too caught up in the world of just your, financial objectives, but also coming back to why you're doing things in the first place. That is very important for me, at least, and I'm learning to find my way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say about that kind of $10 million like litmus test. Like, I think anyone would look at it and be like, jump at the money, but I don't know, I'd be bored in a month if I couldn't work at all. Like, I'd be like, how am I going to live if I don't have a purpose? With that, I want to switch tracks for a second, and touch on AI. Like, something you talked on there, you said a big thing that motivates you is seeing that growth, right? Is like seeing a follower account create and kind of grow, seeing someone that you work with expand their skill set or get better at what they're doing. And I'm assuming, like, from what I know about AI and how we worked with AI, all AI does is just like 10x all of those things, right? It helps people grow 10x faster. It helps you talk with 10 more people in one day because you can automate a lot of this as well. Like, so touching on that kind of AI aspect, what tools do you work with on the daily? What's your daily workflow when are you opening Claude and ChatGPT? Do you have note takers? What kind of different tools are your favorites?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a couple of favorites that I lean on. And you must remember that I'm coming in from a writer's point of view, so I have a set of tools that work for me as a writer. AI works differently because they're trained differently. ChatGPT is great at, for example, content strategy. Claude is great at long form writing. Meta is great at short form social posts, right? So I use different LLMs for different purposes, and sometimes I use a tool called u.com, which then allows me to toggle between tools if I need short form content. And what I also love to do is to create my own custom assistants, which I'm very proud of because I have a team of them. So they help me write my new, pages, my campaigns, my ads. Of course, I don't copy everything that AI creates, right? I'm always interacting with it, challenging it, getting it to challenge me, tweaking and refining the copy, because the goal is when you can combine that human and AI kind of workflow, right? That's when you get quality work that converts. Because let's say, for example, you're running ads. If you're just going to ask ChatGPT to give you 10 different headlines, and then you spend money on running all 10 headlines, you're going to realize that only one of the 10 work, and they may not even work really well. But if you combine your audience insights, in which you glean from actual customer interviews, from your product research, from your competitive landscape, now you take the insights and now you ask ChatGPT to come up with 5 different messaging angles. You test the messaging angles, one of them works. Now you take that one messaging angle, you ask AI, give me 10 different witty headline options. I want you to change the tone of voice. You have a serious one, a playful one, a fun one. And then you test them. And then you can figure out what works for your audience. And you can see that in my train of thought, it isn't as straightforward as AI's solution. It's different ways to solve a problem, and then where does AI, come into play? And that's how I've been using it.
Yeah, I mean, something you kind of touched on there is that you're feeding it qualitative data that you've collected yourself, right? You're not just asking AI a question. You're like, I went out and collected this data and then this information from podcasts, from interviews, from customer feedback that I got myself. And it's really high quality, hyper specific to your use purpose as well. So it's I think people get overwhelmed with AI because they don't start with a purpose in mind. I think a mistake that people make is they're like, they'll open ChatGPT and they're like, all right, well, what now? Because I don't have a purpose in what I'm doing here, which is a real problem. And you're providing a bit of a solution there in that, like, okay, come in with a purpose, come in with a goal in mind, and then the information you feed to it, don't ask just open-ended questions. Give it really good, high-quality data as well, right?
Yes. So I like to start with the end in mind. I always say, like, I am the artist with the vision, and then AI just helps me to, paint that vision, right? But without the vision, you cannot get there. You're just gonna get like AI to try different things, but you're not gonna get to the output that you're looking for. So that's why, even though copywriters or art directors, they may be afraid that AI is going to take over their jobs, but they're actually the best people on this planet to leverage AI, because they know exactly what they're looking for, and it's not based on guessing, but it's really based on the work that you have put in over the years. So if I'm an art director, I know the vision I'm looking for. AI can help me to get there a lot faster. Similarly, if I'm a copywriter, I know what a high conversion landing page looks like. AI can help me to get there 10 times faster.
Interesting. So I think a second part to that then is, if you were going to give advice to someone starting out, would you tell them to try explore a core competence area first before they experiment with AI? Would you say to them, okay, go and have some experience with a marketing department or an operations department or a copywriting, and then supercharge that with AI? Like, how would you tell someone just starting out to focus on this?
Yes, so the funny thing is, if I were to teach my own intern or copywriter, I would just tell her or him that you need to spend time writing without AI. That is it. You have to put in the 100 reps without any assistance, right? Because it's only when you write 100 headlines that you then know, oh, 1 out of 100 works. But you won't be able to tell unless you first write the 100 headlines, right? Mm-hmm. So that putting in the work and getting the experience and understanding how other people have written such great insight-driven content then allows you to start thinking about how you can craft that content. And when you figure out how you can craft that content because you understand how to think, that's when you can train AI to think like you. Whereas if you don't have that process, you're going to ask AI to guess what, or recreate what that person has already created, which then means you cannot solve the problem in a creative way. You're just saying, recreate this solution. Whereas if you understand how to create a solution, then you can get AI to support you in that process.
Yeah, I mean, the AI is only as powerful and is only as useful as the person actually directing it right now, right? It's not capable of independent thought, so the person prompting it.
Right now.
Right now, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what AGI brings in the future. On that note, like, what are you most excited about for the future of AI? Have you got your eyes on any tools, any developments? What are you kind of most excited about in the space?
I would love to see how advertising changes. I think there is still a lot of resistance in the advertising space at this point in time because of the fear of AI. Second, of course, you still have your copyright issues that we haven't fully sorted. It's still a grey zone, right? And then thirdly, because agencies are still learning or thinking about how to integrate it, and then figuring out how to communicate the use of AI with their clients, which could be different from their current business model, because the current business model is based on time. When you put AI into the picture, where does time go? But can you then put a value on a creative's work based on the time that they spend, even though the value is here? So those are big questions that people have not answered, right? And we are all trying to figure it out. But I think that with AI, there will be more people who are empowered to become creatives. Even if you don't have the technical expertise, or even if you are not as well trained as someone else with years of experience, you can still create amazing works of art, amazing works of content with the help of AI. And I think that would unlock many people's creative potential.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to finish on anything else, but I did have one question that I wanted to ask, and I've been dying to ask this entire time.
Go for it.
If you were to somehow duplicate yourself and you were having a conversation with 18-year-old you right now, what would you say to them and what advice would you give them?
Don't do anything differently. You did great, Audrey. I'm so proud of you. I'm just gonna say that. I seriously have no regrets. Like, I thought about it, and I actually had a almost like near-death experience once in my life, and in that moment I immediately knew if I had lived with any regrets. So I think from 18 to now, I probably lived in a way where every moment was maximize. And I'm really proud to be able to say that I stayed true to myself. So no regrets, and I hope to continue this for the next 80 years.
I love that. That is not something I've heard before, but it's beautiful to hear. And I want to thank you so much for coming on, because your energy is infectious. I'm going to go around the rest of my day with a big smile on my face, high energy, speaking to everyone. So I just really, really want to thank you for coming on, first of all. And then secondly, if you could kind of finish off and let people know who are listening where they can find you, where they can get in contact with you, where they can learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed this conversation, if you can't already tell. So Liam is a great host, everyone. I would highly recommend you listening to his podcast. Yeah, but if you want to look for me, of course, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me at Audrey Chia, Chia, and my consultancy is called Close with Copy. So if you want to find me online, just Google Close with Copy and you should be able to find me. Of course, I also have the AI Marketers podcast that drops every Thursday. I would love to have you there, where I share actionable marketing insights that you can leverage for your business.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing so much. Appreciate it once again.
Thank you, Liam.